You cannot catch a virus.
Not even if someone throws it really hard?
So why is it impossible to catch a virus?
Question.
A virus is alive. Is a virus a living thing?
No.
Oh, geez, it's one of those guys, isn't it? Moron, you are not being clever. This is stupid editing that does nothing but show how small-minded you are.
So how is it that people think that you can catch something that is not alive?
Everybody knows you never go full retard.
Because we know how reality works. We know what a virus is, and we know the mechanisms they use to infect cells and trick the cells into making copies of them. For example, retroviruses like HIV-1 have an enzyme called reverse transcriptase that converts their RNA into DNA and inserts it into the host genome. So when the cell does its thing, it parses the virus's genes as though they were ordinary genes of the host, making new copies of the virus. Or coronaviruses like SARS-CoV-2 work by taking their RNA and sticking it into the cell as messenger RNA, which the cell then uses to construct proteins. And in this case, they end up constructing copies of the coronavirus. And that is the difference between someone who knows what he's talking about and someone who has to resort to stupid, unfunny clips every 3 seconds. I'm gonna skip this next part, which is this guy tooting his own horn about, "Ew, I was reading before school. Ew, I knew my times tables before school," and so on. Well, guess what? So did I. It's not that unusual. But he has to do all this bragging because he has to set up this huge argument from self-authority, which he wouldn't have to do if he had the facts on his side.
So what is a virus anyway? Well, a virus is nothing more than a solvent, and these solvents are created within the cells of the body.
Look, idiot. We have pictures of viruses. We know what they are. We've sequenced their genomes. They are not solvents. What solvents have RNA? What solvents have enzymes like reverse transcriptase or Gag-Pollen-Env? A solvent is something that dissolves a solute, resulting in a solution. They're generally atoms or molecules like mercury or water. They're not complex cellular protein structures like viruses. He keeps making a big deal about viruses not being alive. Well, the only reason they're not considered to be alive is they can't reproduce on their own. They have to hijack a host cell to do that. But they have all the other components of cells. They have a genome. They have proteins and enzymes. They just lack the bits they don't even need because they can hijack a cell to do that. The cell membrane, organelles, cytoplasm, stuff like that. Calling a virus a solvent is one of the stupidest things I've heard in a long time. And that's including that stupid Adam guy from New Earth.
This is why you cannot catch a virus. Viruses are created cellularly. Now, the body can create hundreds of thousands of different viruses at any time.
Notice that he skips over the question of how cells are able to create viruses to begin with. Where do those genes come from? Those genes come from parent viruses.
So why does a cell need to create a virus or a solvent?
It doesn't need to create either one. Our cells use existing solvents like water. They don't need to create their own. They only need to create proteins. As for why they need to create viruses, they don't. They shouldn't create viruses. And that's why mutations that destroy viral creation are beneficial. We have thousands upon thousands of endogenous retroviral sequences passed on from our ancestors that have been deactivated by mutations. And that's a good thing, because when another mutation reactivates one of those, that causes a genetic disease. A lot of cancers and autoimmune diseases, and even some forms of MS, can be traced to ERV sequences. On rare occasions, they've been mutated and activated to perform a function, generally as regulatory sequences, but that's after the mutations completely change them to the point where they don't create viral proteins anymore.
Created in response to the built-up toxicity that we have in our bodies.
Oh, for the love of Mike, we don't have built-up toxicity in our bodies! Give it up, morons! Our bodies are actually pretty good at getting rid of toxic chemicals. when we do need to get rid of toxic chemicals, it needs to be something pretty extreme, like chelation therapy to get rid of heavy metals or something. Viruses create toxins. They have specific genes that create toxins when expressed by the host cell. For example, Ebola contains a gene to create the delta peptide protein, which attaches to cell walls to make them more permeable, so the child viruses can escape and infect other cells.
So how does a cell become toxic?
It watches one of your videos?
A lot of people think that it's just totally fine to eat supermarket food, you microwave it, just get flu shots injected into you every year, just drink your tap water.
Yep, he's saying that all of these things are bad things. Some days you don't even need me to debunk it. They just show themselves for the pathetic nutbrains they are. Supermarket food is actually much safer to eat than food you just pull out of the ground. It's protected from disease and packaged in much safer, sterile environments. Microwaves do nothing bad to food, they just heat it. Please get your flu shot unless you have a medical reason not to, and in most places, tap water is the cleanest water humans have had for thousands of years.
So a lot of people have asked me, what is a flu? Well, a flu is a viral detoxification or a cleansing.
See what I mean?
A cold, on the other hand, is mostly bacterial.
I don't even... Colds are not caused by bacteria! That's why antibiotics don't work on them!
And for the most part, what needs cleaning out of the cells are environmental toxins such as heavy metals, plastics, any kind of environmental industrial pollutants, the chemicals that you use in your home to clean things with, things you put in your body.
I don't think you need me to go down this asinine list debunking each and every one. You know he's shoveling it. I'm just gonna point out one thing. Something that ignorant puss brains like him don't know and will probably never understand. There is no such thing as toxic substances. Only toxic dosages. Everything is toxic if you get enough of it. Everything is not toxic in low enough dosages. That level varies from substance to substance, but it's true without exception.
A virus is specific to specific cells in the body. So somebody with hepatitis, for example, which affects the liver, does that affect the heart? Do they have lung problems? Do they have brain or gonad problems? Likewise, a virus that attacks the lungs will not affect the kidneys. It's because the virus is specific to specific cells in the body.
You're just a special kind of stupid, ain't ya? Viruses infect the whole body, which is why they can test for a virus of the lungs by swabbing the nose, or they can test for a virus of the kidneys or liver with a blood test. Because the virus goes everywhere. He was right about one thing. Viruses don't attack human cells. It's not in their interest. Cells are where they live. The virus would be perfectly happy just coursing around your body, making tons of copies of themselves. The bad stuff actually happens because of your immune system. So to use COVID as an example, it happens because, although SARS-CoV-2 inhabits the whole body, it affects the lungs because of a cytokine storm. This happens because of a cascade of immune responses that cause problems. The cytokines produced by your immune system can do a lot of things, like recruit other immune cells, produce antibodies, or signal pain. And some of them produce inflammation. This is actually one tool your immune system has in its arsenal for fighting off an infection. But too much of it can be a bad thing. It can cause aches and pain, fatigue, swelling, low blood pressure, all sorts of things. Sometimes the immune system just goes a little crazy, and in people at risk for serious COVID symptoms, it happens because the cytokines go out of control in the lungs, causing too much inflammation, resulting in respiratory distress. Other viruses like influenza A and Epstein-Barr can cause similar conditions. Viruses are not specific to areas of the body. Immune responses are.
So because a virus is not transmissible within your own body,
complete and utter balderdash.
It should make sense that a virus is not transmissible between people.
So then, by your reasoning, if a virus is transmissible within the body, because it is, then it should make sense that a virus is transmissible between people. And they are. Quod erat demonstratum.
And it's especially impossible for a virus to make the jump between species.
Difficult, but not impossible. If it were, how could viruses have ever come about in the first place? They would only have ever been in one species and then died out as that species went extinct. But again, we've seen this. Even though there's some question about the origin of SARS-CoV-2, there's no question about SARS-CoV-1 or MERS-CoV. Those absolutely did come from bat coronaviruses. We also know that HIV-1 came from SIV that made the jump from chimpanzees to humans through the practice of bushmeat. Someone in Cameroon handling bushmeat with a cut or other open sore got some of the virus in their system, and one of them, just by chance, had mutated in a way that allowed them to kinda sorta live in human cells. They reproduced, and subsequent mutations increased fitness in humans, and the result is HIV-1. HIV-2 had a similar origin, from a strain of SIV in Pseudomangabes in Liberia.
So how is it that a number of people can get a virus at the same time? There is an intelligence that runs through all of life.
Oh, for the love of...
So the body knows when it's a good time to undergo a cleaning.
So, COVID happened because everyone's body all around the world knew it was time for some spring cleaning. I mean, I've been trying to find a way to make fun of this that's more ridiculous than the claim itself, and, well, I think I met my match on this one.
Additionally, our bodies all talk to each other, particularly our immune systems.
You see what I mean? I've tried to come up with jokes about this, like what language they might be speaking or what kind of walkie-talkies they're using, doing a parody of C.W. McCall's Convoy, something like that. All of that, as ridiculous as it is more sane than his claim. Really, if there were anything to this, we should be able to pick up on these communications. Unless you can show the frequency or whatever they talk to each other on, then just go back to having the worst hair on the planet or whatever it is you do the rest of the time.
This is one of the ways that we're attracted to the opposite sex. We can sense their immune system.
I really just... What?
It's how we know that we can create a genetically diverse offspring that will have the greatest chance of survival.
Except we know how this happens, and it's nothing to do with our immune systems. It's subconscious clues we pick up by watching and listening. There's been a ton of work done on evolutionary psychology confirming this.
We sense another's immune system partly by scent.
So we're attracted to someone because of the way their immune system smells?
And this has been taken away quite a lot in modern life. Things like perfumes and colognes.
Except those things have nothing to do with attractiveness. They just make you smell nice. But despite a lot of claims, there's no such thing as pheromones that'll make someone instantly attracted to you. It just doesn't work that way.
And especially when women go on the pill, it can affect their ability to sense a man's immune system. This is why some women come off birth control when they decide it's time to have a baby with their partner, and they smell them for the first time, and they realise that they're actually not attracted to them.
I feel pretty confident in saying that the total number of times that's happened is 0. Maybe they've used that line on him because they've realized he's a stupid jerkwad and they wanted an excuse to get away from him. And no, I checked. This guy is not trolling. He's serious. He actually believes this. And he has quite the following over on Odyssey where his ignorant, unthinking flock just fawn all over his every word. Even though there isn't the first bit of proof for any of it, and it's all contradicted by pretty much every observation ever.
Not everybody buys into what they hear from the media. And recently I saw a video from a guy who was clearly able to use his own brain. He asked a couple of good questions, and those questions led to the finding of vaccine patents.
Alright then, imbecile, show us the result of using your brain. This ought to be good.
So what you can do is you can look up these patent numbers right now. First one being US 200-625-7852. And when you look at that, you'll see how long ago coronavirus was patented.
Moron, that's not COVID. If you'd bothered to read the patent, that's a vaccine for the first SARS back in 2003.
Now here's a European one, EP 317231-9B1. And that one you'll find to be a vaccine patent, which was funnily enough just approved in November of 2019.
That is a patent for a vaccine for IBV, a coronavirus causing infectious bronchitis. Again, nothing to do with COVID.
When did we start seeing coronavirus?
We've been seeing coronaviruses since they were first discovered in the 1920s, you meathead! SARS-CoV-2 is not the only coronavirus! In fact, most cold viruses that aren't rhinoviruses are coronaviruses! Come on, you can just look this stuff up, you addle-pated half-wit!
So I guess it's time to tell you the only...
No, wait. We're done. Sorry. I'm only halfway through this moron's video and I just can't do it anymore. I've reached my limit. But it's clear now why he had to go tooting his own horn there at the start. It's the only way anyone could think this guy might actually know what he's talking about. Because he doesn't. And that's crystal clear from every word he speaks. But he does go on to actively discourage people from getting vaccines or getting any medical treatment for viruses. He's not just a moron, he's complete human scum! So thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, leave a comment, and go to donate.bogosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. And check out all the great content here, like this video selected just for you.